Oh, hey you guys, it's Shawnee. I'm back with another episode of Shawnee's Lab. Wow, that was really fast. But so I'm taking this walk in a little suburban neighborhood. So I want to come on here and talk about the movie Ma, starring Octavia Spencer, and this girl who actually I really like her now. Her character in the movie, her name was Maggie. I don't know the actress by name yet, but I looked her up and I found out like she models and everything, and I figured she had the model because I thought the girl was really pretty. So I want to talk about the movie Ma now. When it first came out, I was hesitant and I didn't want to see it because I'm like, okay, you have this black lady, she gets obsessed with these little white kids. I'm like, what in the racist bullshit is this? But today, today I had went to, my job, and then, I had anything else to do. So, I came back and I watched Ma. So I'm watching Ma, and it turned out to be a really, really good movie. Like when I tell you that was a good movie, that was a good movie. Okay, so for starters, it starts off, with, the Maggie and her mom, they're just moving back, to her mom's home, her old town, because, she married, her mom had got married and moved to California, but then the marriage didn't work out, so then she's back in her hometown or whatever. So, Maggie befriends, these group of kids, they seem like a cool bunch of kids. You got the one black guy, you got the one pretty popular white girl, then you got the three other white dudes or whatever. So, they befriend her, and they decide, they wanted to drive around and drink, which is the dumbest and unsafest idea I've ever heard. I'm like, is that really what suburban teenagers do? I'm from the city. And we just go, to someone's house, or, you might go to the park, you don't drive around and drink. Like, I guess in the suburbs, you might be able to get away with some shit like that. And you know what? That's another thing I liked about this movie. So as you hear me talk, listen to the things I'm saying, because this movie actually pointed out a lot of things, and it made sense, if you really, really pay attention, So, like, just look at the privilege that was going on when you have a bunch of teens driving around and drinking. If we did that, we'd be caught. There's no way. You can't do that in the city. But anyway, so they're walking around, they're driving, they're drinking or whatever. But then, they needed somebody to buy the alcohol. So, they sent Maggie out there to, she's walking around and she's trying to, find Ma. I mean, she's walking around and they're in front of the store and, people are, like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they finally convince Ma to do it. So they convince Ma to do it. Some time goes on, they start using her, to buy the alcohol or whatever. She buys the alcohol for them. But then, she's like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable. I know I'm buying you guys the alcohol. And if you ever get into an accident, I would feel real bad. So, you kind of start to understand. Because, like, as the start off of the movie, it just looks really innocent. Like, she just looks like, she really wants them to be safe. And then she feels bad because she let the sweet talk her into buying the kids alcohol. So, they doing all that or whatever, right? And then things get serious. So, she invites them to her house and they drive to her house and they start, like hanging out in her basement. So they're hanging out in her basement, she brings them food, and snacks, checks their, site and everything, make sure they don't go home drunk or whatever. So then we start seeing flashbacks, right? And in the flashbacks, you notice, that Ma, she went to the high school as well, when she was a teenager. And she went to high school with, their parents' friends. So, Maggie's mom, it was Ben's dad, who's Maggie was dating. And then you have the other people, except the black guy. The black guy, I guess he's just like kind of a new person or whatever. He's the only person who didn't have a parent that went there, And he was actually a really, really minor character. It was like he didn't exist. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so basically, she went to that school and she felt like she didn't exist. Like, she tried hard to fit in. She tried hard to make friends. She was the only black girl, and they were really tough on her. She had a crush on the one white guy, and they did something really, really terrible to her that, to me, it was really mean, You start seeing it through the flashback, but in the flashbacks, they would make fun of her, They pretended to be her friends so that they could embarrass her, So what they did was they knew she had a crush on the guy, right? So because they knew she had the crush on the guy, they used that to get her to go into a closet where they was playing 7 Minutes of Heaven or whatever, and she would perform fellatio on them or whatever. And afterwards, she's like, are you gonna talk to me after? She sounded like, she regretted doing it, which of course anybody will, but anything to fit in. So, they comes out of the closet and she realizes it's not even the guy that she wanted. And it ends up being, some other asshole. And then, the whole school's making fun of her, they're teasing her, like, that was really hard and sad to watch. Not only because it was a woman, but because she was the only black girl. And you know, early in the movie when you first start, you see this you know, black girl that looks similar to mine, you know, and she's inside of a wheelchair, and Maggie helps her. And she, you know, she's like really, really sweet to her. And that was kind of like the opposite of what their parents were, you know, to, you know, Sue Ann. You know, so that, you know, that was really, you know. So at first I'm watching the movie, I'm on, you know, the kid's side. I'm like, you know, damn, they didn't, you know, mess with this crazy lady. Now she stalking them or whatever. But, you know, so, so that was me just talking about the flashback. So as the movie goes on, you know, they're hanging out at her house, you know, eventually more high school kids from different schools start coming. You know, so it just becomes, you know, one big celebration. Let's all go hang out at Ma's house. You know, she would text the kids, you know. And when they started ignoring her, you know, then she started getting a little crazy. So she would text them, you know. She was doing weird things like stealing their jewelry. She made up a lie saying that she had cancer just so the kids could feel bad for her. It was said that she had a husband, and he, you know, he left her or whatever. I guess is how her and her daughter ended up being alone. But, you know, another thing was, you know, I had the feeling that the reason she kept her daughter, like she had took her daughter out of school. And I think the reason why she did that is because she knew what happened to her when she was that age, and it was the same school and the way they treated her, and she didn't want her daughter to, you know, go through the same thing. So that was even heartbreaking, you know, within itself. Like, you know, she was projecting that hurt and fear and pain onto her daughter as well. And her daughter probably never understood, you know, why her mother acted so crazy, or, you know, would fake an illness so that her, you know, she couldn't leave the house or go to school or whatever. So anyway, because Ma had such a big crush on, you know, Ben, you know, that's the only reason why she even started targeting, you know, the kids, you know, because she realized that, you know, the young boy, one of the young boys was the son, you know, of one of the, you know, of the guy that she really liked and the guy that, you know, embarrassed her or whatever. So, you know, the craziest thing about the whole story is that with Ma, they never apologized. None of the people made amends. She still lives in the same town or so today, and they're all, and you know, when they start to meet up with her and see her getting at, oh, we didn't know you still work here and live around here. And I'm just like, wow. So they never even made up or, you know, made amends for, you know, the way they treated Ma or anything. So, you know, the more to the story basically is it wasn't that she was just some crazy lady, you know, who got obsessed with a bunch of group of kids. You know, she targeted those kids for a reason. And the reason was because behind how their parents treated her and how they made her feel. And honestly, you know, I can admit I had a little tear, you know, coming out because, you know, that I've had friends and cousins who've had the suburban experience where you might be, you know, 1 and 2 or 3 of black people and a bunch of many white people, and it's hard to fit in. You don't know who you could trust, you know, and instead of her, you know, I guess just being the lone survivor, you know, she just did anything to fit in, and that's eventually, you know, what got her hurt. You know, and, you know, like that lady was really damaged inside, you know, and you can tell, you know, that what they did to her when she was young, she never got over it. And they even had the nerve to be like, oh, we were just kids. Yeah, okay. So, you know, and then another thing, you know, so eventually she kidnaps the boy's father, you know, she kills him, you know, she runs over the bitch, one of the girl that he married, you know, the one that was responsible for, you know,